Welcome to your Veterans Resource Podcast, Return to Roots. This podcast is for service members and their family members regarding retention, transition, and reintegration from active duty to veterans in the community. Hi, I'm your host, Chris Elder, an active duty senior chief in the United States Navy, and my partner in crime / host is Yogi Hernandez, who's an active duty chief in the Navy. Together, we are documenting our experiences as we prepare to transition and reintegrate into the community. Every podcast will have actionable content that will benefit American service members and their families, as well as those who have already transitioned and reintegrated. We got some exciting news. My Transition Timeline 365 is now on the Android and Apple App Store. Go on there, download it, track your transition timeline, find Return to Roots Mil2Vet inside of the app where you can find new updated episodes and get the most up-to-date information on your transition, because your transition and reintegration into the community is priority. Enjoy the app and enjoy this show. This material is intended for a mature audience. If you have little ears within earshot, please make sure that you listen to it before you allow them to listen. We encourage people to utilize Courage to Call 211 if you have any suicidal ideations, or if you just need somebody to talk to. 211 is a great resource. Today we have the privilege of talking with Fernando Arroyo, the Veterans Outreach Director at Step Forward Academy. He's a former paratrooper ranger and author of The Shadow of Death. Brothers and sisters, enjoy the show. What's your book all about, man?
My book's titled The Shadow of Death: From My Battles in Fallujah to the Battle for My Soul. Really, what my book's about is my story from the time I joined after September 11. Joined the Army. I was a paratrooper, airborne infantry. Joining after September 11, like so many Americans did, feeling that, that I was called to do this. And then serving 3 combat deployments in Iraq and Afghanistan. And then coming back, and then the struggle of post-traumatic stress disorder. Dealing with PTSD, dealing with all the memories, the loss of my friends, everything that I crammed to the back of my mind. And then when I come back, like there's nowhere else to hide, there's nowhere else to go. And it all just creeped on me to the point where I almost took my own life. I finally surrendered and said, okay, I need help. I put my pride aside. And so many of my friends had killed themselves. So many of my friends committed suicide. Some of them were killed in action. They died honorably. It's just so sad that like the Taliban couldn't kill my buddies, Al Qaeda and ISIS couldn't kill them. They took their own lives. And some of them, they were married, they had children, and it's just the demons inside. It's the fight within, the battle that happens inside combat veterans when they get out, and then they need purpose, they need calling, they need another mission. And I didn't know what I was going to do. Finally, I got help. I admitted that I needed help. And then now I get to turn around and help veterans. And I want to help as many veterans as I can so that they don't have to suffer the way I did.
It's very honorable. I think that, just like you said, man, the biggest issue that we have is once we start transitioning, and for us, it's sometimes more than a year or sometimes just very short, is that we don't know what we're doing. And it's not that we don't have options, because we have plenty of options, but we just don't have the love and the passion, as you put it, a mission, right? What is the mission that we're going to accomplish? And then, just like you said, people go down that spiral, and the anxiety, depression, and you no longer have the group and the camaraderie to be able to just kind of push it away and stuff like that. That is fascinating, man. Greatly appreciate your book, and it was very, very deep, to say the least. So, and thank you for having the courage to be able to share that story. Unfortunately, I think that it is we know it's very difficult, but to have the courage to share that with the world and be vulnerable because you want to help, it is fascinating, man. We really appreciate you.
Yeah, a lot of my friends told me, the guys I serve with, and I don't know if you want me to get into the book. Like,
if you want to, go ahead. Yeah.
Go as deep as you want. It's the Fernando show.
Okay. So before I get deep into it, I had friends when I announced that, and I'll tell you how it all happened, but I got a book deal and I put it out there on social media, and I said, hey, my book's coming out, and August 3rd, it's coming out. So it just came out 5-6 months ago. So many guys that I serve with were reaching out to me, and they were like, man, like, I can't believe you're doing that. And I didn't know what they meant. I was like, well, what do you mean? Like what? And they're like, I don't even talk to my wife about the stuff we did. My kids don't know about the stuff we did. My parents, they have no idea about the stuff we did because, you know, it's not, it's hard to share about, oh yeah, I shot these people, or this is how my friends were killed, and to share the intimate stories of what you saw in war. It was just another world. And then you come back here and it's all like everybody's living their life and everything's great. And oh, hey, how was it over there? Yeah, I'm not, yeah, you know what? I did my job, and it's, I understand I kept it very vague, but it wasn't until I finally decided to get help, and then that I started meeting veterans who needed help, that I said, okay, in order for me to reach veterans and to get them to admit they need help, they need to hear my story.
Yes.
So my story, where it begins, is I was like 5 or 6 years old, and Operation Desert Storm was going on. And I remember watching Operation Desert Storm on TV. And then I remember seeing all these cool videos on TV of like thermal images of missiles hitting targets, and cool airplanes and stealth bombers and Navy ships launching Tomahawk cruise missiles. And I was like, dude, wow, that's cool. But the thing that captured me was seeing the guys on the ground fighting. And I thought, oh, damn, like that's what I want to do. And that was 1991. And then 10 years later, it's September 11, 2001. And I'm in school, I'm in high school. And I remember I get to school that day, and my buddy Max, he ended up joining the Navy. And my buddy Max, he said, hey, did you hear what happened in New York? And I was like, no, like what? He's like, dude, there was an explosion in New York in one of the buildings. I was like, okay. And I didn't think anything about it. And then I get to my second class, and I see like everyone in the previous class is still there. Some of them are crying. And I walk in, and I'm like, this is already weird. Like, why is the TV on? Teachers don't just turn their TV on. Why is everyone still sitting on their seats, and why are they crying? So I walk in and I look at the TV, and I see the Twin Towers on fire. And then I could see people jumping out of the buildings because they would rather commit suicide than burn alive. And then I heard that America was under attack. And I remember thinking, okay, this is it. I wanted to join since I was like 5 years old, and now I can, and I have to do it. This is for this country, this is for my country. So I go to the Army recruiter, and I'm like, hey, I want to be a paratrooper, and I want to go to Army Ranger School. And he just started laughing. And he's like, no, you don't. I was like, no, yeah, man, like I want to be a paratrooper. And he's like, dude, do you even know what that is? I'm like, yeah, you jump out of planes and you fight. And he's like, dude, it's not going to be nice. You're going to be in the rain. You're going to be in the mud. Like, it's terrible. And then he tried to offer me $20,000 enlistment bonus to be a cook in the Army. And I was like, nah, man, like, I can't do that. Like, I'm not going to be a cook in the Army. I want to be a paratrooper. I want to fight. So then he's like, dude, don't come to me and tell me that I didn't warn you. All right. And then he's like, have you ever been on an airplane? And I was like, nah, I grew up poor in a 1-bedroom house. Like, my parents came here from Mexico. I had never been on an airplane. And he was like, dude, so you're telling me you want to jump out of an airplane and you've never even been on an airplane? And I was like, yeah, that's what I want to do. And he's, again, don't come back and tell me that I lied. Oh, my recruiter lied to me and all this crap. And then I remember I signed the papers. I graduated high school, and I'm on an airplane from LAX to Fort Benning, Georgia. And then I'm scared on the airplane. And then I remember looking out the window of the airplane. Dude, I looked out the window of the airplane, and I was like, oh no, like I messed up. Dude, I messed up so bad. Oh man, for the first time in history, a recruiter wasn't lying. I was like, oh yeah, I don't want to do this. So yeah, I remember being afraid, but then I went to Fort Benning for infantry training, and you know, it was scary and everything, but I did it. It was just learning to, you know, kill the enemy, shoot, move, communicate, and kill. That's it. Shoot, move, communicate, kill. And, you know, learning infantry tactics, weapons, grenade launchers, rocket launchers, all kinds of weapons, all the cool gear, you know, the night vision, the infrared lasers, all that stuff. And then after infantry school, then I went to airborne school down the street. And I remember like my first time jumping out of an airplane. Airborne school is 3 weeks, and the third week is jump week. And I just remember thinking like, dude, am I going to be able to do this? Am I going to be able to actually just throw myself out of this plane? And I remember getting, you know, my parachute on, you know, everything. They inspect you again and again, make sure you're good. The back of the ramp of the C-130 aircraft opens and you load up. And I remember sitting down and then watching the ramp close. And I was like, oh crap. When this airplane lands, I'm not going to be in it. I'm like, oh, damn. Like this, you know, I said a prayer, and then all the commands start, you know, they open the side doors, the wind's blowing, I hook up, and then it's like one after another, just like go, and you start jumping out, boom, 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 boom. It's like in like 3 minutes, 60 people jump out. It's like less than 3 minutes. It's fast. So I remember jumping out, feeling the wind, my parachute open, and I was like, oh, thank God my parachute opened. And, and then I hit the ground, and I'm just like kissing the ground, like, oh man, I made it. And then I had to jump 5 times. And then after that, then I went to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, 82nd Airborne. And then when I got to the 82nd, that was all nighttime jumps, full combat gear, low to the ground. Like it was just intense. And yeah, I jumped so many times, like I don't know, like about 20 something, 30 times. About 2 months when I arrived to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, 82nd Airborne, then I volunteered for a recon platoon. So our job was to go behind enemy lines, to remain undetected, to gather intelligence about the enemy. And I remember after my training and making it through a selection and all this stuff, and then Iraq popped off. And then that's when I deployed in 2003. And then I was in Fallujah, Iraq. And then I remember in Fallujah, my first time in Fallujah, Iraq was a nighttime mission. And I'm wearing night vision. And, you know, I had the my M4 and everything, like all the, you know, cool guy gear and stuff. And I remember being in the back of a cargo Humvee, and we're looking at the city of Fallujah, and I could see tracer rounds, you know, glowing red and green bullets flying into the sky. And the insurgents, all the Al-Qaeda guys, they were on the streets, and they were shooting their machine guns in the air, and we were intercepting the radio and telephones, and we could hear that like they were challenging us to a fight, and they were saying that they were going to kill us. And I'm like, okay. I was 19 years old. I had just turned 19 the month before, and I'm ready to go, and I'm scared. I remember being afraid, and I remember it's like the chaplain came out, Chaplain Knight. Chaplain Knight was a former Delta Force operator, and he felt called by God to be a chaplain. And so, you know, this guy had all the, I think he was in like Mogadishu, Black Hawk Down, and like all that stuff. He had all the cool guy stories, you know, we all looked up to him. Well, he prayed for us, and his prayer was like, Lord, we pray that you would guide our bullets to pierce the skulls of these savages and send them to hell. In the name of Jesus, amen. And we're like, all right, let's go. And I remember getting on the Humvee, we locked and loaded, night vision on. And as we get into the city, all the shooting stops. So we knew we were being watched. And then we're going up and down the streets of Fallujah just looking for a fight. It was called a movement to contact mission, which is a fancy word, movement to contact. It just means search, seek, and destroy. We're just going to go in the city, and we're going to like, hey, look, we're right here. Come on, like fight us. But we're going to kill them because, you know,
Right.
we're America. Like we win, you know? So, dude, there was no one. There's no one. So we go to the outskirts of the city by the Euphrates, and we're driving like 5 miles an hour. Like, hey, there's tall grass on both sides, the Euphrates River. It's a swampy area. There's some houses. And then I hear 2 explosions. And there was 2 RPGs. And they flew like 5 feet over my head. And then I heard ambush. And then like bullets are flying towards me. And I could hear the sonic boom of the bullets going by me. Just pop, 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 pop. And when my night vision on, I turn on my PAC-4 infrared laser, and it was just an out-of-body experience. I do what I was trained to do. I was on autopilot, and I start shooting back. I could see the muzzle flash, you know, as guys are shooting at me, I see their muzzles flashing, and I'm just aiming for that and shooting these guys. And we start driving out of there to get out of the kill zone where the ambush is. And my team leader, McGuire, he's like reloading his grenade launcher, his 203 grenade launcher. And he's like, hey, there's a guy running. And I see this Iraqi with an AK running. It looked like he's trying to get a better position to shoot at us. So as we're driving up and he's running, I like follow him with my infrared laser, and I put like 5 bullets in him. And I remember he fell and he disappeared. And by then I fired my 30-round mag. I said, hey, changing mags, changing mags. I put a fresh 30-round mag in, lock and load, I'm ready, and it's ceasefire, and it was over. It happened so fast. It was like an out-of-body experience. That was my first time that I killed a human being, and that was the first time that I saw combat. That was my 2nd week in Fallujah, and I was there for 7 months. So in 7 months, in those 7 months, I saw death, I saw people slaughtered. I saw there was this incident where an Iraqi police station was raided by I don't know if you guys, there was a guy named Abu Musab al-Zarqawi. Zarqawi was the most wanted terrorist in the world, more than bin Laden. He was the guy in Iraq in the early Iraq war. He was chopping people's heads off.
Yeah, I remember him.
So we were there, and he was leading his guys to try to kill us and destroy Fallujah, destroy the police and all of that. And yeah, there was this one firefight. I wasn't there for it. I wasn't there. My old platoon, I was in 1st Platoon BCO of the 1505 Parachute Infantry Regiment, 82nd Airborne. But my old platoon, they were in a gunfight for 3 days and 3 nights.
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, and Zarqawi was there, and he was like ordering his troops to, like, it was like wave after wave for 3 days. They were trying to take over the mayor's office, and our guys were protecting it. And I heard different body counts, but it's estimated that in those 3 days they killed over 200 dudes.
Wow.
And like, you don't hear about this stuff, you know, you don't hear about this stuff, but those were the type of gun battles and things that were happening. But I remember coming back from war, turning my gear in, and then waking up to the sound of gunfire in the barracks and explosions, only to realize that it was all in my mind. I was just having a flashback. Like, I didn't even understand, you know, 19 years old, been to war, can't even buy a beer, and I've been to war. Well, then I went to Afghanistan, and then I went to Beiji, Iraq. And I remember in Beiji, Iraq, the most intense, I lost several friends there. You know, I wear these KIA bracelets. I have, I don't know how many I have, but it's too many. And yeah, I remember that deployment in Beiji, Iraq. There was this car bomb incident. Car bombs were the thing. They're packing these trucks with 2,000 pounds of explosives. This car bomb, June 25th, 2007, Beiji, Iraq. A suicide bomber packs his truck with explosives, drives it into a joint security station, destroys an Iraqi police station. 19 Iraqi policemen were dead. My platoon got called to go and save them. And I remember my buddies from Charlie Company were there, and they're all messed up. They had concussions in their heads. Like, it was just where the Iraqi police station was, there was the concrete barriers behind the police station. And then there was a 2-story building where our guys were staying. And the Iraqi police station was destroyed, but the concrete barriers, they kind of took some of the blast. So all the guys in Charlie Company in that 2-story building, They were tossed tossed around, in that building, slammed up against walls. They had concussions, but they survived. But then 20 insurgents came in. So it was a coordinated attack. A car bomb goes in, boom, explodes, destroys the Iraqi police station. And then 20 bad guys are armed and dangerous. They go in and they're going to wipe out all the Americans. That was how they initiated the raid. But it takes more than a car bomb to stop paratroopers. And I remember, yeah, we drove down the road, and I remember getting there and just seeing a crater on the ground. My Humvee, it's an up-armored Humvee, and I'm the squad leader, and I could hear bullets bouncing off the bulletproof, just bing, 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 bing. They're trying to kill my gunner. So we parked the Humvee in front where the crater is, where the Iraqi police station used to be. And I get out and I get out and I go to the rubble where the Iraqi police station was, it was all rocks. But in the rubble, there's bodies, body parts. And then I hear steps, like someone's walking out from behind the barriers. And it was my buddy Sullivan. I had served with him in Iraq, in Fallujah, and in Afghanistan before. This was my third deployment. And I see Sullivan. He's got a bloody nose, full combat gear. And I was like, hey, Sully, are you okay? And, I went to Army Ranger School. So did Sullivan, right? We were both recon, paratroopers. And then, so I told Sully, I'm like, hey, Sully, are you okay? And then Sully says, I just killed 20 fucking insurgents, and I'm going to go play with their bodies later. And I'm like, oh, he's good, So I'm like, hey, dude, like, what's going on? And he's like, look, we're taking fire from this 3-story building. We're taking fire from here. We have these cameras in the sky. The enemy's coming. We're surrounded. They booby-trapped the road from the joint security station to the main base with like 20 plus bombs. So reinforcements, they're not going to get to us for like an hour. And then air support, it's not like the movies. Like I remember watching We Were Soldiers. I don't know if you guys saw that movie.
Yep.
We Were Soldiers, and then they're like Broken Arrow, and like everybody just shows up, Well, they booby-trapped the road, so we have no ground support. And then air support, well, air support is busy because there's other people. Wait, welcome to Iraq during the surge. There's other people fighting. First come, first serve. You're going to have to wait your turn. And that's going to be like 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah.
So he's like, we're on our own for the next hour. Tell your guys to conserve ammo, take well-aimed shots. All right, this is it. And, being a paratrooper, it means you're surrounded. We're trained to parachute behind enemy lines, and you're surrounded. We jump into that, and we're supposed to win,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like, that's what we do, right? So we were surrounded, and for 1 hour on our own, it was about maybe 40 of us in a city surrounded by, I don't know, hundreds. I don't know how many. And we fought wave after wave. And I remember finally close air support showed up, and like there were, helicopters were doing gun runs. Kiowa helicopters were doing gun runs, and they ran out of ammo. Well, on the Kiowa helicopters, they don't have doors. So what they started doing was like drive flybys, and they're flying, but the pilot and co-pilot, they had M4s. So they were just shooting out their door from their doors, from the sky.
That's awesome.
They're just like, the enemy's like, hey, we got guys over here. And they'll fly by, and you see the pilot like, reloading. And like, then, okay, the co-pilot, and then they were like, okay, hey, drop hand grenades. They were dropping hand grenades from the helicopters. And they ran out of everything. So then they had smoke grenades. So then they started throwing smoke grenades where the enemy was, so that we could call in for artillery and mortars to bomb where the smoke was. So they're like, hey, look, we're going to mark targets, and then we got to go. we're out of ammo. And after 1 hour, we killed about 200 people. So that was just like, that was the most intense gunfight I've been in. And so I joined after September 11. I serve, I do 3 deployments. I experience these gun battles. I see death, destruction. I lose friends. I get back. My last deployment in Beijing after that gun battle and all that, that was 15 months in Iraq. 15. I get back to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and then like 2 weeks later, I get a letter, and it's orders, right? You guys know about orders.
Oh yeah, love those.
So I got this letter, and it's like, attention to orders, Sergeant Arroyo Fernando. You have 10 days to get out of the Army. You have 10 days to turn in your gear at CIF, 10 days to do your medical, last physical exam, to go to whatever appointment, like all kinds of crap. And that's all I was doing. Just 10 days, like, oh crap. Boom, 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 knock it all out. I enrolled in community college. I get out. And next thing I know, I'm a college student. And I wasn't right. I wasn't right. And like so many veterans at the time, you go to war, you get out, you know, I'm going to school, but it was like this record on replay. And all I heard was like gunshots. All I heard was explosions. I could hear the radio. You know, my 2 call signs, my first deployments, my call sign was Hawk 3 Romeo. My last deployment, it was Bravo 1-1. And I could hear people calling me on the radio. I didn't have anything, right? I'm just walking to class and I'm hearing machine guns, like I'm in combat, like la, 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 la. And I could hear Bravo 1-1, Bravo 1-1. This is 1 Panther 7-1 over. I'm like, what? Like, it was just in here. And I would say after about a year, I started noticing like I'm falling apart. Before I could go to sleep, well, first of all, whenever I got home, I had to clear my house. I had to grab my pistol and I had to go room to room, close quarter combat. I'm looking under my bed, looking in my closet. Like I want to make sure there's no one there because I don't feel safe. Then it got to the point where I couldn't sleep unless I looked under my bed. And then the nightmares kept going, the lack of sleep, the depression. I thought I wanted to be a cop, and then that fell apart. And then I reached a point where I just felt like a failure. All the police departments rejected me. And I thought, okay, I think it's time for me. Like so many veterans, the statistic right now is 22 veterans commit suicide every day.
Correct.
22 veterans a day. And I thought, yeah, I did what I could. I served my country. It's time for me to take my own life. And I grew up a Christian. I grew up a believer. I strayed from God when I joined the Army. But I remember one night it was nighttime. I turned off the lights, closed the blinds, and I was just drinking and drinking. And then I passed out. I had a nightmare. And then I remember I just thought like, okay, I'm going to kill myself. And I sat, with a gun in one hand and a beer in the other. And then I got my pistol and I put it in my mouth. And then I said, with the pistol in my mouth, I said a prayer in my mind. And I remember I said, God, if you're there, save me. And I was going to church at the time, but I did not tell anybody about what I was going through. I just didn't trust anyone. They're not veterans. They don't know, like, no, I'm not gonna, I don't want to do that. So with a pistol in my mouth, and I said, God, if you're there, save me. And it was quiet. And I'm like, yeah, God doesn't even care. So then I took the safety off. It was a 1911 pistol, a 45 ACP with hollow points. And then I said, all right, this is it. Like, it's time for me to check out. And I put my thumb on the trigger and I closed my eyes and I was crying and I had tears going down. And then I said, all right, this is it. I'm just gonna push down on the trigger with my thumb, and then it's over. And then I heard a bang, and I dropped the gun. And I remember I dropped the gun and I looked around. I'm looking for blood, and I touched my face, and there's no blood. And then I'm just freaking. I'm scared. You know, I'm just there crying. I'm scared. Like, what happened? Am I dying? Do I need to call 911? Like, I don't know what's going on. Well, I had a Bible. I was in a studio apartment. I had a desk, and I had a Bible on my desk, and somehow that Bible just fell on the floor, and that was the bang that I heard. And I fell to my knees, and I was like, God, I'm sorry, forgive me. And I asked for forgiveness, and I was crying, and I just said, God, I need help. Like, I need help. And my buddy, he works for the VA, and I knew him from high school, and he had been bothering me. You need help, dude. You need help. And I'm like, that's just for pussies, dude. Like, I served in war, you know, that's for bitches. Hey, airborne infantry, Ranger school, 3 combat tours, sniper team. I don't need help, bro. Nah, I'm solid. I'm solid. Well, after that happened, I was like, okay, I need help. I give up, because God spared my life, and it was only God, you know, he saved me. And the next day I told God, okay, fine, I give up. I need help. The next day he calls me and he's like, hey man. I'm like, nah, I'm good. I said, nah, I'm good. And he was like, look, I know you're not. Just I'll pick you up in my government car, take you to the VA. You know, we can help you. He's like, dude, I'll buy you breakfast. And I was like, I love breakfast. I'm like, all right. You know, I
Definitely
love
a
hot
way
chow.
definitely a way to our hearts right there. You can bridge it with food. So you want to bring someone in that you know needs help, just be like, hey man, I'll buy you breakfast burrito.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's I mean, it worked for me. And yeah, that's when I met with a clinical social worker, Bob Weems. Never forget him, great guy. I met with him. Even then, my pride, see, this is the thing that I see with vets is pride, right? My pride kept me from getting help. Airborne, infantry, Ranger, all that crap. And I didn't want to admit weakness. I didn't.
Yeah.
And then even when I showed up with this clinical social worker, I got this like packet, and they're like, hey, answer these questions. And it was like stuff like, did you serve in combat? Yes or no? Yes. Did you ever kill anyone? Yes or no? I put no. Did you lose any friends? No. Do you drink alcohol? Absolutely not. Have you had nightmares? No.
Nope.
Have you thought about suicide? Never. I lied. I still lied, bro. And so I get called into his office, and it's just me and him. It's a small office too. Like, it's kind of like, it's intense, bro. He's like an arm length away from me. Closes the door, and he's like, hey, look, according to your answers, you don't need our help.
Yeah.
You're good. You don't need our help. And I'm like, cool. Can I leave? And he's all like, no. He's like, let me tell you the problem that I have with your answers. I'm like, what? And he pulls out my DD-214. And he's like, well, I was looking at your DD-214, right? Which, for people who are listening who don't know about the military, that's your record of everything you've done in the military. When you get out, this piece of paper, they tell you, make 1,000 copies, because that's the only evidence that you serve. And it has all your medals, your deployments, awards, all that stuff, you know? And he had it, and he's like, this is the problem I have. Your answers don't match your DD-214. Because I see here Iraq, Afghanistan, Iraq. I see you've been a war for over 2.5 years. I see that you were infantry. I see airborne, and I see Ranger. And I'm like, okay, and he's like, well, I think you're full of shit. That's what he said. He's like, I think you're bullshitting me. And I was like, crap, like he got me, you know? So I'm like, so? And he's look, I'm here to help you. I am here to help you. I am for you, not against you. Even if you have committed murder, what you tell me stays between us. And it was just quiet. And it's just quiet. And I'm just like looking at him, looking at the door. Like, dude, I could walk out right now. But then I knew that I had a gun in my mouth and God saved me and that he let me live. And this was the opportunity when I said, God, I need help. He got me. He's like, here's all the help you need. And I'm still resisting it. And then I was just like, fuck, man. What do you want to know? And he got my packet. Have you been to Iraq? Yes. Have you been to Afghanistan? Yes. Have you ever killed someone? Yes. Did you lose any friends? Yes. Have you thought about suicide? Yes. Do you want to kill yourself right now? No. Do you drink alcohol? Yes. How many drinks did you have on Friday? About 30 something. With who? Alone. What about Saturday? The same. With who? Alone. What about Sunday? I had like 20 beers. Why only 20? Because I got to go to work on Monday. And he's like, you need help. And I just started crying. I just started crying. And I'm like, damn, I didn't know what to, I just started crying. He peeled a layer off. He told me straight up to my face, I needed help. And it was all my pride and everything. Like, fuck it. I give up. Like, it's over. I need help. It's the truth. And for the next year, I met with him 2 times a week. And I knew he thought I was really messed up because the VA only works from Monday through Friday. And it was Saturday on his day off. And he called me. It was Saturday. My phone's ringing. I see like, what the hell? I answer. I'm like, hello. He's like, hey, Fernando, this is Bob. I'm like, are you working? No, we're closed today. I'm like, oh, all right. I just want to check in on you. And I'm like, okay. He's like, do you want to kill yourself? And I said, not today.
Sorry. Oh man.
And then he's like, good. He's like, are you drinking? And I'm like, no, I'm not drinking. You said I have a problem. He's like, oh, that's good. He's like, are you going to be okay until Monday for our appointment? And I said, yeah. All right. Well, hey, you know, I'm here for you. All right. And I'm like, aren't you off? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, so I'm pretty fucked up, huh?
Bro, you had that guy so worried he did a special phone call on you.
Yeah, on his day off, he's calling me. And then he's like, well, kind of fucked up, but aren't we all? I'm like, yeah, I guess. He's like, all right, I'll see you Monday. But I got help, you know? And there was so many tears shed and so many memories that were brought up and so many, it takes work, you know, recovery takes work, and processing the wound, the invisible wounds of war takes work. And it's sad and it's hard, and reliving these events and the nightmares I had, you know, and like all these things. But it gets better, you know. To every veteran who's going to hear this, it's hard at first. It is. But it gets better and better and better. It's like you're vomiting all the trauma, all the anger, all the loss, all the pain. And even if you're not a combat veteran, the anger of like the built up anger. I met so many guys that never went to war, but they got treated so shitty in the military that they have so much anger and so much, just they've been holding on to so much for so long. You need to let that out, because if you don't, you're going to let it out on your wife, on your kids, on your loved ones, and it's not healthy. It's okay to talk about stuff. It is. And I did, and it was in private. I wasn't crying around like a little bitch to a bunch of people. Hey, have some dignity. But like admitting I needed help, talking to a professional, and then finding, like, at my church, I go to Mariners Church in Tustin. There's Mariners Church Irvine, huge church, and they have so many men's groups. And you know what? Like, they're not all veterans, but just having camaraderie and having, people to talk to and just to vent, like, hey, my week's been shitty or whatever. It's good, bro. It's good. And yeah, I found myself, like, I got help, and then I felt called to go to seminary, to go to Bible school, right? I went to Biola University, and I finished my Master of Divinity degree in pastoral care and counseling. And while I was doing that, I was helping veterans at Biola University, and I helped to kickstart the Biola Veterans Association. And we, there were guys that just got out of the military, they got their GI Bill, they're going to school. And I was like, I was looking for anyone on campus that looked like a vet. If you had a high and tie, I'm talking to you. Like, you need to change your haircut. That's terrible. Don't get a high and tie. I don't know if people do that anymore, but it was just crap,
Mm-hmm.
If you're wearing, like, the 511 tactical pants, or like any, a camouflage backpack on school, or the camo hat with the American flag with the Velcro, like, oh, I want to talk to this guy. Are you a veteran? Yeah. How'd you know? Like, well, dude, come on. You look like, like you're trying too hard to look like you're Spec Ops, But just being able to, talk to veterans and tell them my story, and then say, I've been through these things, and there is hope, and there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and you could have a better life. Well, after I finished my MDiv, I went to, I got a job at the Orange County Rescue Mission, and I was the veterans case manager, and I was a counselor for veterans transitioning out of homelessness. Well, there I met my friend Ryan Wong, and Ryan Wong started the nonprofit I work for now. One of the nonprofit I work for a nonprofit. I have too many jobs, bro. So, I'm a writer, author, public speaker guy. I work part-time for Step Forward Academy, which I'm gonna talk about. And then I started a job as a case manager at a place called Hope by the Sea. And we help veterans, recover from drug and alcohol addiction, and transition to a healthy life. And at Step Forward Academy, what we do is we have a program that's set, and it's online, it's all remote. So you could be anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world. And if you could tune in on a Zoom meeting, we have a class that's coming up in February. So whoever listens to this, sign up. But veterans and non-veterans alike, what we do is we have a curriculum, and there's tests, and we help you figure out your strengths, and what jobs go with those strengths to help offer direction. And then classes on, we have guys who specialize in LinkedIn accounts and how to maximize putting yourself out there on LinkedIn, how to, you need help with your resume. I don't care if your job was, scrubbing toilets in the military. We could make your resume look fantastic.
Isn't that everybody's job?
Yeah, I mean, we all did that. I know I did. Like police calls and waxing floors, whatever, But, it's not a janitor. You're a custodial engineer. Like we could make it sound really good. But the thing that separates our program is the coaching and the mentorship. So at Step Forward Academy, we have volunteers and they're very successful people, most of them from Orange County, very successful. And we have a lot of veterans on the team, and they just want to give their time to give back and to help veterans transition and anyone else, to hold them accountable, to help them set goals. And like I said earlier, you know, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Right.
So as fellow veterans, like we had our journey, we've made friends and connections. And then I could now meet someone who's in the active duty and they're like, yeah, I want to get out and I'm thinking about, you know, whatever job, man, like I want to work for NASA. Oh, you do? Well, guess what? I happen to know aeronautical engineers and freaking rocket engineers. I know people like that. I can connect you to them. They can tell you who's hiring, what they look for, what you need to do, because they've gone through it and they could guide you through that. So you're not like me when I got out wondering what I'm going to do, you know. Thank God for his guidance. But if I had coaching and mentorship, that would have saved me so much time, bro. You know, and that's what Step Forward Academy wants to do. So stepforwardacademy.org, that's what we do. I feel like I've talked too much.
No, man, you're
What's
good.
up?
Like I said,
Wait.
this is the Fernando show earlier, man. And bro, I kind of here, I'll give you a little break, man, and kind of throw some 2 cents that you know, going the Step Forward Academy, you know, having those kind of resources that you're talking about, where you have like actual mentor leaders and within their communities that are out there saying, hey, I want to take on some hard charger vets that come in from transitioning, and I want to help them, guide them into my own community. That's a pretty big opportunity for those who are transitioning and need some help reintegrating into the communities out there that they want to be a part of. So that sounds pretty awesome, man. Like, so you're talking like if somebody wants to become an engineer, or they're just like, hey, I want to be a filmmaker.
Yeah.
You guys would help guide them into that direction.
We got people. I'll tell you this, look, check this out. So when I got hired on for Step Forward Academy, my buddy Ryan, right? He's the president and co-founder of Step Forward Academy. He said, hey, look, I want you to go through the program. And then I want you to tell me if this is even going to help vets. And I'm like, okay. So for a few weeks, every Wednesday night at like, I think it's like 7 p.m. because we want to cater to people who are working. We want to cater, you know, like you have a life, you have a job, but if you can just give us an hour of your time, one hour a week for, you know, a few weeks, we can help you with everything. And so I went through it myself. You know, earlier we were talking about, oh, you know, we'd like for you to introduce us to someone who's gone through the program and benefited from it. Well, I'm right here. Like when my book came out, through the coaching and mentorship, my buddy Ryan, like all these people, you know, they came around me and they're like, hey, public speaking is where you're going to spread the word. And I had so many public speaking events and I have more lined up. And it's because of the mentors around me. Oh, I know a guy, he's in charge, you know, he's the pastor at this church. Oh, I know the guy who's in charge of this organization. They're looking for a motivational speaker. So I'm getting speaking engagements, book signings, and all that. Like, dude, I mean, it's helping me because I wrote the book, but the whole goal is to help veterans and their families. And that's taking place because of the coaches and mentors who believe in what I'm doing and because of Step Forward Academy. So I am a living testament to what Step Forward can do. And it's so cool, you know, and coaching and mentorship is the game changer. And I hope, you know, I don't know, let's see whoever comes our way, you know, we're willing to help.
So question for you, right? What are the prerequisites? What today I want to go next Wednesday. Is that something I can just do? Just jump in, go on virtual, or is that something that I have to set up in advance, set up some paperwork? How does that work? Tell me about the
All
process.
right. So, step by step, like the first thing you do, you go to stepforwardacademy.org and it says sign up to be a mentee, right? Because you're going to get a mentor. So you're going to be a mentee. Well, you sign up, you fill out the information. We want to know like who you are, what your goals are, just information about you. Are you a veteran? Yes or no? What branch? How many years? What'd you do in the military? So we kind of have an idea of who you are. Then we'll connect you to, her name is Shannon. She's a Navy wife. Her husband served in the Navy. He's now in the, yeah, there you go. And so she knows veteran culture and she's super cool. So Shannon will call you, interview you, and then we'll see like, okay, whether you're a fit for our program depends on whether you are willing to commit to, it's just a few weeks, it's like 6 weeks, one Wednesday night a week. And are you willing to listen to your mentor? They're not going to command you and give you orders, but to connect and have a mentor and to be held accountable, because in order to call people out on their bullshit, they have to be like, yeah, I'm willing for you to call me out on my bullshit. Because, I, as a vet, like I didn't want to get called out on my bullshit. Hey, help. I don't need help. I'm a paratrooper. Oh no, I was wrong,
Right.
And are you willing to have someone guide you with your best interest in mind, by the way, And if you're willing to do that, then you're good. And then you'll get the link to the Zoom meeting, you'll get the resources. And if you're looking for a certain job, you're going to get links to like, hey, they're hiring. We'll help you apply, help you, help you with your resume for each position. So you look the very best. We can connect you with other nonprofits. We can help you get a suit and tie. We can help you get, business clothes, everything you need to succeed. We will help you with it every way we can, with every resource that we can, because we work also with other nonprofits. So really, it's like, take the time to go online, sign up. Do you agree to these things? And then we'll go from there.
That's awesome, man. That is absolutely amazing. We cannot thank you and your team enough for everything you guys are doing. And thank you for sharing your story. It's one thing to read about it. It's another thing to hear from it live. You know what I mean? It's completely different.
Yeah.
So we truly appreciate you, man. Chris, you got it? What other questions you got? Because I'm wow. I'm shocked.
Fernando, I'm really glad that you came on here, and I'm really glad that we started off with your book. All right, and here's the reason why. Your story, books, right? And that's why we also asked towards the end of the podcast, books and other material, because books unlock and unleash some memories.
Yeah.
And also help equip and help knowledge, help people gain the wealth of knowledge that's out there for free, right? Well, you may have to pay for a book or whatnot, but what I'm saying is it's going to unlock some memories, right? I know when, for example, I was reading the new David Goggins book that came out, right?
Oh,
he was talking about his relationship with his father, and it released a memory that I had from my childhood when I was a kid. And it made me realize that, hey, I've always been a fighter. Like that is my natural ability is I will fight. And ever since I was a little kid, I have a very similar story, not my actual father, but a stepfather that was very similar in some ways.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you sharing those stories, man, because that, hey, you just telling that story, man, it kind of unlocked, I remember coming back from 2 tours in Afghanistan, then going to Guantanamo Bay
Yeah.
as a detainee guard and having to deal with all those like clearing the house. I was like, check. I
Yep.
that shit.
Yep.
Massively, check. I used to do that shit. I never personally killed anybody, but I've been around a lot of dead people.
Yeah.
And I've done things that, like you said, outer body.
Yeah, man.
So like you sharing those things, man, it's just, it kind of brought me back to where I was at. And, hey, like I was really screwed up. And if it wasn't for my wife at the time, man, I don't know where I'd be at. She put up with me for a while, and, hey, people need to go get help. Like even I've been seeking help recently.
She's still putting up with you.
Yeah, I know. She's a great woman. So I appreciate you coming on here and sharing your story, man.
No, dude, I love, and I mean it, man. I love meeting veterans. Both of you guys, like, every branch talks shit. Like we all like, oh, Army Navy game and all that crap. I'm gonna be honest, the Army Navy game, I'm very happy at the results. It was whatever. It's sad, but whatever. The Army won. I was like, what? A field goal at the end, they won. I'm like, oh my God, go Army, beat Navy. And like talking crap, like, oh yeah, Army this, Navy that, whatever. But the bottom line is, this is what I'll say. This is what I remember. I remember being in Beiji, Iraq, and I remember I got to work with the Navy EOD, right? That's Navy Special Warfare, and the EOD guys worked so hard, and they, we were out there with them. And they're just like blowing up bombs. A few of them were killed in action. But I remember when my friends were killed, my friends were killed. These Navy EOD guys, they were there and they were in tears and they paid their respects. And I just thought like, dude, like these are my brothers, bro. Everyone who serves is my brother or my sister. Everyone who serves, who put on that uniform, who represented America, we're all on the same team. We may bust each other's balls from time to time, like whatever.
All the time.
Right. But it's like this. Look, this is how I see it, though.
Especially if there's an Air Force guy in a room, okay? Air Force,
Chair Force. Yeah.
Yeah,
Chair Force.
There's no respect.
Yeah, no, yeah. But, it's like amongst us, like, yeah, we talk crap to each other. But if you've never served and you're talking crap, I don't care if you've never served and you're talking about the Air Force. Like, hey, dude, shut the fuck up.
Yep.
You know what? That Air Force guy did more than you did because you didn't do shit. So anyone who served is my brother and my sister. And I just want to help as many vets as I can. And I'm so happy that I get to work with vets and hear their stories, just like you guys, like different experiences. But it's still service and sacrifice. And I respect you guys and I respect everyone who's ever served. And I think together we can help so many vets, man.
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. Yeah. If it's okay with you, we'd like to bring you back a few weeks, a few months from now to obviously catch up and see where this takes us. Because I know we're going to keep in touch.
Yeah.
And we're going to keep on building each other up. You are in the Orange County area.
Yeah,
which is awesome. We're currently, in San Diego. Chris will eventually go back to Washington, but we're trying to continue helping and passing the word out about all the things that we know that people need in and out of the military, and it's all about knowing what you know.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to ask these last few questions.
Yeah, let's do it.
What books do you recommend? Books or even podcasts?
I mean, aside from yours, obviously, that is.
Yeah, aside from The Shadow of Death by Fernando Arroyo.
Fernando.
The books that I recommend. Well, as a Christian, I recommend the Bible, right? Always. But Yeah, the Bible. Yeah, time after time, it's the best-selling book of all time. So, but there's a book called Tribe by Sebastian Junger. Tribe by Sebastian Junger. I don't know if you guys have seen a documentary called Restrepo, but if you look up Restrepo, Sebastian Junger, you want to know what war is like, to be a paratrooper and go to war, you watch that documentary. You will see some gruesome real world Afghanistan combat. But this book, Tribe, he talks about the problem, like so many veterans commit suicide. This country's so broken down and divided that, less than 1% of Americans serve in the military. So when you come back home, you have no one to relate to. So like me, I came back, I felt alone. I felt isolated. Who understands my struggles? And what he explains in that book is about why that is. And that's why it's called Tribe, because he looks at Native American culture, like in the early days, and they went to war together. And when you come back from war, you're well received and taken care of, and everyone, a warrior culture, it's like everyone comes around you. When you look at Israel, everyone in Israel has to serve at least 2 years in the armed forces. Everyone there's a vet. So you're not alone. People understand you. They understand your struggles. If you have PTSD, it's like, oh, well, I do too. I mean, being in uniform is a culture and a support group. So if you're like struggling, you tell your friends like, dude, I got drunk and did this. Like, yeah, dude, like we're all doing that too. And like, oh, okay, I'm kind of normal, but it's like you have community, So Tribe by Sebastian Junger is a good one. What would be another one? Wow, what are some other books I've read? Military books. I'm trying to think. You got my book, you got the Bible, you got Sebastian Junger. There's other books. Come on, think of there's a book called, hold up, let me look at it. I'm gonna cheat. I gotta look at my audiobooks, because there's a really good book by it's about a former SEAL Team 6 member and the struggles that he faced, and it's really inspiring, and it's called Fearless. This book, Fearless, by Eric Blem, and this guy, so this book's about a Navy SEAL. He was in SEAL Team 6, and his struggles, he struggled with drugs and addiction, but he was a SEAL Team 6 member, and he found healing and hope through Jesus Christ. And as a believer, as a Christian, always Jesus Christ is center of everything. And his book, Fearless, I mean, you talk about a warrior, SEAL Team 6, you're tier 1, you're top of the, you're up there. And even then, we all have to humble ourselves before God. Just like God is the one who kept me from pulling the trigger and killing myself. I owe my life to him. And Fearless is a good book about faith and the struggle and the battles of war and sacrifice. And it's really an amazing book. I really recommend that book. Do you want another one?
No, I think we're good on that, man. So here's the thing, like we always get books from everybody, and everybody gives us like two they give us 2 books, and I'm like, the readers are going to be well educated if they read every single book.
Yeah.
But I think
us too, though,
I've read the Fearless book before.
Yeah.
It's when I say read, I mean listen.
Yeah. No, it's really good. It's really good. But there's one more I want to recommend.
Okay, do it.
One more. It's called All Secure. All Secure. And it's a book, All Secure, and it's Tom Satterley is his name. All Secure by Tom Satterley, former Delta Force operator. And the reason I recommend these books is because these guys are tier 1 operators. They're the very tip of the spear. And you'd be surprised that you could be at the tip of the spear and be so elite. And we look up to these guys. And yet when they get out, they face the same struggles as us.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, I'm not a coward. I'm not this. It's okay to seek help. Because even if you were at the very top doing the most classified missions, you're going to go through the same thing, you know? And that's very humbling. And it opens the door to say, I need help. And that's what I want. I don't want veterans to be like me and go through what I went through and have a gun in their mouth. I don't want that. And I want to end that. 22 a day is unacceptable.
Absolutely.
I want to end that. So that was my last book. That's it.
You know,
Sure.
so I text Yogi right when you were talking about that tribe book, and I'm like, tribe, because I have this thing, man. We're building a tribe here, and
Yeah.
and Return to Roots is part of building this tribe, a tribe of people that may not know of each other, and that's why we interview people around the entire country. So
Yeah.
like it's a tribe of people that are just trying to help each other. We are all in this together. We come back and we're like, okay, well, shit, nobody knows what I did back there. But when I talk around people and I was like, hey, yeah, I was Expeditionary Guard Force, this and this, that, and they're like, some of them are going to know exactly what I'm talking about and the things that I had to go through. Like you say expeditionary to anybody and they're like, yep, this guy was up forward somewhere doing something.
Yeah.
So and it's just like just that tribe that we miss out on. And that's kind of one of the biggest things that I'm worried about when I go back is people don't fully understand me. People have this opinion of me,
Yeah.
but they don't really know the real me because I've been off gallivanting around the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But my last question is actually if you were to go back and flash back to 18-year-old Fernando,
Yeah.
what would be that little golden nugget that you would throw at yourself, man?
Don't lose sight of God. I grew up going to church. My mom always took me to church. At 13, I believed, I confessed my faith in Christ and I was baptized. And then when I joined the army, I just I strayed away. And I remember just, going with the flow and drinking and just doing all this crap. But I believe that having a spiritual foundation, a relationship with God is I believe in the holistic approach where, we're not just physical beings, we're spiritual beings. And my relationship with Christ would have changed so much if I had held on to it instead of blaming him. I reached a point in my service where I just blamed God for my friends dying and for, the horrors of war that I saw. But death is a reality. If anything, God was showing me why I need him more than ever. And I didn't understand that. And I would tell my 18-year-old self, like, hey, look, go talk to the chaplain. Talk to this. Even if you're not a believer, I mean, you're hearing this, you don't have to be a Christian or anything. You can go find the chaplain and it's confidential, bro. And you can vent and talk about anything and just be like, whoo, let it out and walk away. And it's private. And that would have made a huge difference instead of holding on to this weight of shame and guilt. Oh, I shot this person, or I bit, I did things in war that were just terrible. But I was kind of just going through it alone. So bottom line is hold on to your faith. That's what I would tell myself.
It fascinates me, and I'm gonna share this with you, and only
Yeah.
because of what you shared with us.
Yeah.
So, I joined in 2002, and in 2003 I was also on deployment, right? I was on workups on the George Washington. There was accident, right? This person literally decapitated themselves, right? They were on the dolly. So the spotter was supposed to be taking care of them. I was 18 at the time. I walked up, and as I'm opening this massive door, and this is on the carrier, I see this guy, and they're talking back and forth. One of the guys goes silent, and then you hear this sound of bones breaking, right? There's no way to describe it unless you've experienced it.
Yeah.
There's no way.
The snap and the crack and all that. Yeah.
And I start wanting to help the guy that's on top of the forklift, right? What do I do? What do I do, right? So I try to stop it. I try to tell the guy that's supposed to be watching for him to make sure that that doesn't happen. Hey, this is happening. This is going on. And I mean, there's no going back. It already happened, right? It was the neck, half of his, you know, I don't want to be too graphic on this podcast, but it brought this change of who I was. And even with the people that I was with at the time, the only thing that we did to cope with it was pretend like it almost didn't happen. Right?
Yeah. That seems to be yeah.
And with that, right? So this is my first time dealing with something like this, and I'm looking up for guidance and mentorship of how am I supposed to deal with this, right? And everybody was just like, just move on, just move on. Don't, you know, just keep on going. Needless to say, that's not the right way to deal with it by any means, and you're not supposed to. Even like on paper and everything, there's specific instructions on how you're supposed to deal with it. Needless to say, that didn't happen at all. But it wasn't up until, so you mentioned the chaplain, right? For the last 20 years, I've reached out to the chaplain because of the whole stigma, even though it's supposed to be not a stigma anymore, right? But it's still a stigma of if you go to the psychologist, you can lose your security clearance, or you're going to be shamed, or you're going to be that guy, right? So the way that I dealt with that kind of stuff, it was by talking to the chaplain or by becoming the suicide coordinator. I was a suicide coordinator for 12 years. 12 years. I was also the sexual assault victim advocate for close to 15 years, right? Because how else do you deal with trauma without exposing yourself is by trying to help everybody else, right? And I just love the fact that you mentioned that you would go back and tell yourself to go and reach out for help.
Yeah.
That is such a strong message.
Yeah.
That no matter how many people say it, it's the truth. It's the truth. I'm sorry, I went down a rant.
No, that's fine. That's good. That's good. You're absolutely right, man. Like, why not get help? And I think there's a culture of like, not wanting to be weak, not wanting to, I don't know what it is. I don't know. For us, my experience, it was the culture of not wanting to admit that you could not handle something on your own.
Yes.
Because it's some type of personal weakness.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, I'm not, I don't know nothing. Like, no, dude, you need to say something. Be a human being, bro.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
No, thank you. That was all you.
No, that story, yeah. Oh man, like the bones and like, oh man, that's I'm sorry you had to go through that, bro, but I'm glad that you shared it because I know a lot of people are gonna like relate to that.
Chris, back to you. Now that
With that,
All right, guys. So, like Yogi has already said, hey, Fernando, thanks for coming on to the show, man. We're building a tribe here on a Return to Roots.
yeah.
We talked about your book, Step Forward, and you graced us with some pretty good reading material. 15 books, was it? No, 3 books.
Yeah, 20.
No,
100 books in a year. Go ahead.
hey, it's man, I use this app. I always put this sometimes I put this selfless little plug in there, and I talk, it's not mine, I wish it was mine, but there's an app called Libby, and you can go to your local library and download Libby, and then with your library card you can get free books. So I can tell you right now, Fearless is on there, and Tribe is on that app as well. It's free. Just go to your local library, get your little library card, and download the Libby app and get 2 of those 3 books for free.
Yeah.
So very important stuff. Thanks for sharing. Yogi, anything else? Any parting shots?
Yes, The Shadow of Death is on podcast. Not on podcast. Wow. Audible. It is also on iTunes. It is extremely accessible. Please listen to that.
If anybody wants to connect with you, how can they do that, bud?
paratrooperarroyo.com.
Awesome. And you're going to see
paratrooperarroyo.com. Go ahead.
And you're going to see links with the paratrooperarroyo.com. You're going to see the book link. And we hope to hear more from you guys. And bro, we're going to bring you back on the show. All right. Well, thanks for listening to Record Your Roots. Wow.
Record Your Roots.
Hey, luckily I could
show, man.
Hey, watch this. I'll just split it. I'll be like, hey, thanks for listening to the show, guys. Thank you for listening to Return Your Roots. I thought that was a little funny, so I left that in there so you could hear some true, authentic messing up of things. But we touched on some topics today that I feel that we need to just address. There's courage to call, and if any reason while you're listening to the show, you feel like you're experiencing some past experiences, courage to call 211. They can help you out and process that stuff. They have veterans services available for people that may need to talk to somebody, especially unlocking some of this stuff. It can bring stuff up, so I understand. So courage to call 211. I hope you guys enjoy the show, and it's been a privilege to be able to be here in front of you guys. Thank you. Do us a solid. Share this content with everyone you know, regardless if they're associated with the military or not. This content will help someone you know, and hopefully will lessen the deadly gap after service. Our goal is to do whatever we can to reduce the number of suicides from 22 to 0 within the community. Give us a 5-star review, follow, like, and subscribe. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, TikTok, and you can follow us on LinkedIn and Instagram for more content from our guests. These are our personal experiences, and we do not represent the views of the United States Navy and/or the Department of Defense. Your transition is ultimately up to you. Please do your research and ask questions. Use Master Chief Google or ask a friend and network within the community that you belong to. Return to Roots out.